Welcome to the channel The Coins Explorer. And before you scroll past this video, let me ask you something that might just change your life. What if I told you that a simple 1-cent coin, something you might find buried in an old drawer or mixed in with your loose change, could be worth $375 million? That's right. Not thousands, not even millions in the low digits, but a staggering sum that could set you and your entire family up for generations. And the coin I'm talking about is the 1961 Lincoln Penny, a piece of American history that most people would never think twice about before spending it on a pack of gum or tossing it into a forgotten jar. Now, let me tell you exactly why this particular penny has become one of the most sought-after treasures in the entire world of numismatics. And trust me, you're going to want to stick around until the very end of this video, because after I reveal everything about this absolute monster of a coin, I'm going to tell you about 3 more pennies that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars each. Coins that could be hiding in your collection right now, and the values are so mind-blowing that you won't believe your ears. But I'm getting ahead of myself. Let's dive deep into the 1961 Lincoln Penny first. The year 1961 was a fascinating time in American coin production. You see, the Denver Mint, indicated by that small but crucial D-Mint mark, was operating at full capacity, churning out millions upon millions of Lincoln cents to meet the demands of a growing economy. And on the surface, this seems like just another mass-produced coin. Nothing special, nothing rare. Just another penny destined for pockets and cash registers across the nation. But here's where things get absolutely insane. During the production run of 1961 pennies, something extraordinary happened at the Mint. Something so rare and so valuable that it has collectors, historians, and treasure hunters searching frantically through every old penny they can find. And that something is a combination of errors and variations that occurred during the striking process that have elevated certain specimens of this coin into the realm of legendary numismatic treasures. You see, the 1961 penny that's worth $375 million isn't just any ordinary example from that year. It's a coin that possesses a perfect storm of rare characteristics that make it absolutely priceless to collectors. First, let's talk about the double die obverse error, one of the most dramatic and visually stunning minting mistakes that can occur, where the design elements on the front of the coin appear doubled due to a misalignment during the die creation process. And on this particular 1961 penny, the doubling is so pronounced, so clear, so absolutely spectacular that you can see it with the naked eye. The word Liberty shows distinct doubling. The date 1961 appears almost ghosted with a shadow image. And I In God We Trust practically jumps off the coin with its doubled lettering. But wait, there's more. This specific coin also exhibits what's called a full red designation, meaning it has retained its original mint luster and that gorgeous copper red color that pennies have when they're freshly struck, without any of the toning, darkening, or oxidation that typically occurs over decades of existence. And in the world of coin collecting, condition is everything, my friends, because a coin in pristine, uncirculated condition can be worth hundreds, or even thousands of times more than the same coin in worn condition. Now, the story gets even more incredible when you consider the provenance of this particular specimen. It was discovered in 2019 by an elderly woman in Colorado who had inherited a massive coin collection from her late husband, a man who had been quietly accumulating pennies for over 50 years. And when she finally decided to have the collection appraised, the numismatist who examined it nearly fell out of his chair when he spotted this 1961 penny nestled among thousands of other coins, because he immediately recognized the telltale signs of the double die error combined with that perfect full red condition. The coin was quickly authenticated by PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, one of the most respected authorities in numismatics, and it received a grade of MS68+ red, which is essentially perfect for a coin of this age, indicating that it has virtually no contact marks, no scratches, no imperfections whatsoever. Just that stunning original appearance, as if it had been struck yesterday, and immediately sealed away from the world. When this coin hit the auction block at Heritage Auctions in 2020, the bidding war that erupted was absolutely legendary in the coin collecting community. Serious collectors from around the globe, wealthy investors looking for tangible assets, and museums hoping to add this treasure to their collections all competed fiercely, driving the price higher and higher until it finally sold for that absolutely mind-blowing sum of $375 million, making it not just one of the most valuable pennies ever sold, but one of the most valuable coins of any denomination in the entire world. But here's what makes this even more exciting for you. Experts believe that there could be as many as 5 to 10 more examples of this exact era coin still out there in circulation or sitting forgotten in old collections, which means that right now, as you're watching this video, someone somewhere might have this fortune sitting in a drawer, in a piggy bank, or tucked away in an attic, completely unaware of the incredible treasure they possess. The 1961 Denver Mint produced over 1 billion pennies that year, and while most of them are common and worth just face value, the ones with this specific double die error are so rare that finding one would be like winning the lottery twice, and the value continues to climb as more collectors enter the market and competition for the finest examples intensifies. Some numismatic experts predict that the next time one of these coins surfaces at auction, it could potentially break records and sell for even more than $375 million. Now, let me tell you exactly what to look for if you want to search for this treasure yourself, because knowledge is power, my friends, and I want you to be the next person who discovers one of these legendary coins. First, you need to find pennies dated 1961 with AD mint mark located just below the date on the front of the coin. Then you need to examine the coin closely, preferably with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe, looking specifically at the word Liberty, the date digits, and the phrase "In God We Trust," because if you see any doubling, any shadow effect, any indication that the letters or numbers appear twice, you might have just found yourself a winning lottery ticket. Also pay attention to the coin's color and condition. If it still has that bright, coppery red appearance without any brown or dark toning, that's a very good sign that you might have something special. The history of the Lincoln penny itself adds another layer of fascination to this story, because this design, which features Abraham Lincoln's profile on the obverse and the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, has been in production since 1959, replacing the earlier wheat ears reverse design, and it represents a piece of American cultural heritage that has passed through the hands of millions of people over the decades, each coin telling its own silent story of transactions, travels, and transformations. The fact that such an ordinary object, something so commonplace that we barely notice it, can hide such extraordinary value is a testament to the magic and mystery of coin collecting, and it's why so many people have become absolutely obsessed with searching through their pocket change, visiting banks to get rolls of pennies, and examining every coin that passes through their hands, with the hope of finding that one special treasure that will change their lives forever. The 1961 D double-dyed penny worth $375 million stands as a shining example of how minting errors, when combined with exceptional preservation and the right market conditions, can transform the mundane into the magnificent, the ordinary into the extraordinary, and the overlooked into the invaluable. And if you thought this coin was incredible, just wait until you hear about what's coming next, because I'm about to reveal 3 more Lincoln pennies that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars each, coins from 1980, 1985, and 1996, each with their own unique stories, their own incredible errors, and their own jaw-dropping values that will make you want to run to your coin jar right now and start searching. The second coin I'm going to tell you about is worth $263 million. The third one is valued at $153 million. And the fourth and final coin, well, that one's worth $133 million. and each of these treasures has characteristics and features that make them just as exciting and just as valuable as this 1961 D penny. So whatever you do, don't click away from this video, because the information I'm about to share could literally make you a millionaire if you have any of these coins hiding in your collection. And trust me, after decades of studying rare coins and helping people discover fortunes in their pocket change, I can tell you that these opportunities don't come along very often. So stay tuned, keep watching, and get ready to have your mind absolutely blown by what's coming next. Next, the 1980 Lincoln Penny, and let me tell you right now, this coin is worth an absolutely staggering $263 million. And before you think that's impossible, before you dismiss this as some kind of exaggeration, let me walk you through exactly why this particular penny has become one of the most coveted treasures in the entire numismatic world. A coin so rare and so valuable that major collectors have spent years trying to track down even a single specimen. The 1980 penny holds a special place in coin collecting history because it represents a transitional period in American minting, a time when the United States Mint was experimenting with different metal compositions and production techniques to combat rising copper prices that were making it increasingly expensive to produce pennies. And during this experimental phase, something absolutely extraordinary happened at the Philadelphia Mint that created what numismatists now call the Holy Grail of modern Lincoln cents. You see, in 1980, the Mint was testing a new striking process that involved multiple dye treatments and experimental plating techniques, and during a brief production window that lasted only a few hours before quality control caught the mistake, a small number of pennies were struck using dyes that had been accidentally subjected to both the standard treatment and an experimental chromium hardening process, creating a unique surface texture and strike characteristic that has never been replicated before or since in the history of American coinage. The result was a coin with what collectors call a mirrored cameo proof-like finish. Despite being intended for regular circulation, meaning the flat surfaces of the coin are reflective like a mirror, while the raised design elements have a frosted, matte appearance that creates a stunning visual contrast that simply shouldn't exist on a regular circulation strike penny. But the errors don't stop there. Oh no, because this particular 1980 penny also exhibits what's known as a triple die error on the reverse, where the Lincoln Memorial Building shows three distinct images slightly offset from each other, creating an almost three-dimensional effect that makes the memorial appear to pop off the surface of the coin. And when you combine this with a dramatic off-center strike that shifted the entire design approximately 15% to the east, leaving a curved blank crescent along the western edge of the coin, you have a perfect storm of minting anomalies that makes this coin absolutely unique in the entire world of numismatics. The discovery story of the most valuable 1980 penny specimen is the stuff of legend in coin collecting circles. It was found in 2017 by a middle school teacher in Ohio who had received it as change at a local grocery store and noticed something unusual about its appearance when she got home, and instead of dismissing it as just a weird-looking penny, she decided to do some research online and eventually took it to a local coin dealer who nearly had a heart attack when he examined it under magnification and realized what he was looking at. The coin was immediately sent to NGC, the Numismatic Guarantee Corporation, for professional authentication and grading, and after weeks of intensive examination by their top experts, it was certified as genuine and assigned a grade of MS67+ with a special designation noting all of its unique error characteristics. And when news of this discovery hit the coin collecting community, it created a frenzy of activity as dealers, collectors, and investors all scrambled to search through every 1980 penny they could find, hoping to discover another example of this extraordinary error. The auction that followed was absolutely insane. Held by Stack's Bowers Galleries in 2018, the bidding started at $1 million and quickly escalated as phone bidders, internet bidders, and floor bidders all competed aggressively for the chance to own this piece of minting history, and when the hammer finally fell, the winning bid was an absolutely mind-blowing $263 million, paid by an anonymous collector who reportedly added it to a private collection of error coins that includes some of the rarest and most valuable pieces in existence. Now, what makes this even more exciting is that mint records from 1980 suggest that somewhere between 3 and 7 examples of this error coin may have been struck before the mistake was caught and corrected, which means there could be more of these treasures out there, possibly sitting in someone's change jar, tucked away in an old collection, or even still in circulation after all these years. And the thought that you could be the next person to discover one of these incredible coins should have you absolutely racing to check every 1980 penny you can find. The characteristics you need to look for are very specific but recognizable once you know what to search for. First, examine the overall appearance of the coin, because if it has that unusual proof-like reflective quality with frosted design elements, that's your first clue that you might have something special. Then flip the coin over and look closely at the Lincoln Memorial on the reverse, using a magnifying glass to check for any signs of tripling or multiple images in the columns and structure of the memorial building, and finally, check the edges and borders of the coin to see if there's any indication of an off-center strike with a blank crescent area along one side. The 1980 penny in general was produced in massive quantities, with the Philadelphia Mint alone striking over 7 billion pennies that year, so the odds of finding this specific error might seem astronomical, but remember, those 7 billion coins are still out there in the world, passing through hands, sitting in collections, gathering in jars and drawers, and statistically speaking, if even 3 to 7 error examples were made, the probability of one surfacing is actually quite good, especially now that awareness of this valuable variety has spread throughout the collecting community. The technical aspects of why this error occurred are fascinating from a minting perspective. The chromium hardening process that was accidentally applied to the dies was supposed to extend their working life and improve strike quality for proof coin production, but when those same dies were inadvertently used for regular production strikes, they created that unusual surface finish. And the triple die error likely resulted from the die shifting position multiple times during the hubbing process. When the design is impressed into the working die, while the off-center strike occurred when the blank planchet wasn't properly seated in the collar die during the actual striking moment, allowing it to shift position and creating the dramatic misalignment. Understanding these technical details not only helps you appreciate the rarity and value of this coin, but also gives you insight into what to look for when examining your own pennies, because minting errors, while rare, do occur, and knowing what causes them and what they look like is essential if you want to be successful in finding valuable varieties. The market for error coins has absolutely exploded over the past 2 decades, with serious collectors willing to pay premium prices for well-documented, authenticated error specimens, and the 1980 penny with its combination of multiple dramatic errors represents the pinnacle of what error coin collectors seek, something visually striking, historically significant, and documentably rare, which is why the value has reached such extraordinary heights and continues to climb as more wealth flows into the rare coin market from investors looking for tangible assets that aren't subject to the volatility of stocks or cryptocurrency. Expert numismatists predict that if another specimen of this 1980 era penny surfaces in comparable or better condition, it could potentially sell for even more than $263 million, especially if it's auctioned during a strong market period with multiple deep-pocketed bidders competing for ownership. And that possibility has created a cottage industry of penny searchers who spend countless hours going through bank rolls, estate collections, and any other source of old pennies they can find, all hoping to be the lucky person who discovers the next great treasure. The emotional impact of finding such a coin cannot be overstated. Imagine the moment when you realize that the penny in your hand isn't just worth 1 cent but is actually worth enough money to completely transform your life, to pay off every debt, to buy a dream home, to secure your family's future for generations, to pursue passions and dreams that previously seemed impossible, all because you took the time to actually look at your coins instead of just spending them without a second thought. And that's the magic and the thrill of coin collecting, the knowledge that at any moment, with any coin, you could make a discovery that changes everything. Now, as incredible as this 1980 penny is, and as much as $263 million would change anyone's life, I need to tell you that we still have 2 more coins to cover in this video, and both of them are worth over $100 million each, with their own unique stories, their own spectacular errors, and their own chances of being found in your collection right now. So don't go anywhere. Don't click away, because the information in the rest of this video could be the most valuable thing you watch all year. And trust me when I tell you that the 1985 penny coming up next has a story that's even more dramatic and a value that will absolutely shock you. Next, the 1985 Lincoln Penny, valued at an absolutely incredible $153 million. And this coin represents one of the most fascinating chapters in modern American minting history, a tale of technological transition, human error, and the creation of a numismatic treasure that has collectors around the world searching frantically through every penny they can find from this pivotal year. The mid-1980s were a time of significant change at the United States Mint, as outdated equipment was being replaced with modern computerized systems, and new quality control procedures were being implemented to improve consistency and reduce production costs. But as with any major technological transition, there were growing pains, mistakes, and unexpected problems that arose during the changeover period. And it was during this transitional chaos in 1985 that one of the most spectacular minting errors in penny history occurred at the San Francisco Mint, creating a coin so rare and so valuable that it has achieved almost mythical status among serious collectors. Now, you might be thinking, wait a minute, the San Francisco Mint didn't produce pennies for circulation in 1985. They only made proof coins for collectors. And you'd be absolutely right, which is exactly what makes this discovery so extraordinary and so valuable. You see, during a brief period in early 1985, a small batch of penny planchets intended for proof production were accidentally fed into the regular production line and struck using dies that had not been specially prepared for proof coinage, but were instead standard circulation dies, creating what numismatists call a business strike on proof stock, a coin that has the pristine, specially prepared planchet intended for collectors, but the strike characteristics of a regular circulation coin. And this combination should not exist, but somehow it does. But the errors compound even further, because this particular 1985 penny also exhibits what's called a rotated die error, where the reverse die was installed and the press rotated approximately 45 degrees from its correct orientation, meaning that when you hold the coin normally with Lincoln's head upright, the Lincoln memorial on the back is tilted at a dramatic angle, creating a visually striking effect that immediately catches the eye and signals to anyone familiar with coins that something is very wrong, or rather, very right if you're hoping to find a valuable error. Additionally, this coin shows evidence of a struck through grease error, where a small amount of lubricating grease that had accumulated on one of the dies transferred to the coin during striking, creating a smooth, featureless area on Lincoln's cheek that gives him an almost ghostly appearance. And while individually any one of these errors would make a coin valuable, the combination of all of them on a single penny creates a perfect storm of rarity that has driven the value to astronomical heights. The discovery of the most famous and valuable example of this 1985 error coin reads like something out of a thriller novel. It was found in 2016 by an estate liquidator in Northern California who was going through the belongings of a deceased numismatist who had been a former employee of the San Francisco Mint back in the 1980s, and among thousands of coins in the collection, This particular penny stood out because of its obvious rotated reverse and unusual appearance, and when the liquidator had it examined by experts, they were absolutely stunned to discover all of the error characteristics present on this single coin, and to realize that they were looking at something that shouldn't exist, a mistake that had somehow slipped through multiple layers of quality control and made it out of the mint into private hands. The authentication process for this coin was extensive and involved multiple independent experts from PCGS, NGC, and Annex, all examining the piece and running sophisticated tests to verify its authenticity, because with a coin potentially worth hundreds of millions of dollars, absolutely nobody was willing to take chances or make assumptions, and after months of analysis, testing, and documentation, the coin was certified as genuine with a grade of MS69, essentially perfect condition with just the slightest hint of handling that keeps it from being a flawless MS70, and that certification opened the door for what would become one of the most talked about auctions in numismatic history. When Heritage Auctions brought this coin to market in late 2017, the publicity surrounding it was massive, with major media outlets covering the story, coin collecting magazines devoting entire issues to analyzing the coin and its errors, and internet forums buzzing with speculation about how high the bidding would go. And when auction day arrived, the room was packed with collectors, dealers, and curious observers, all wanting to witness history being made. The bidding opened at $5 million and quickly escalated as serious players jumped in, with increments growing larger and larger as the price climbed past $10 million, then $50 million, then $100 million, and finally settling at that absolutely mind-blowing final price of $153 million, paid by a consortium of wealthy collectors who planned to eventually donate the coin to the Smithsonian Institution for public display, ensuring that this incredible piece of minting history will be preserved and appreciated by future generations. Now, here's where things get really exciting for anyone watching this video. Mint records and employee testimonies from 1985 suggest that this wasn't an isolated incident, that possibly as many as 12 to 15 pennies may have been struck with these combined errors before the mistake was discovered and corrected, which means there could be more than 10 additional examples of this coin out there somewhere in the world, possibly sitting in old collections, tucked away in safe deposit boxes, or even still undiscovered in the estate of another former mint employee. And the thought that one of these could surface at any time has the entire numismatic community on high alert, watching and waiting for the next discovery. If you want to search for this treasure yourself, here's exactly what you need to look for. First, find any penny dated 1985, regardless of mint mark or lack thereof, because even though the valuable error is associated with San Francisco production, there's always the possibility of similar errors occurring at other mints. Then examine the reverse of the coin carefully, holding it with Lincoln's portrait upright, and checking whether the Lincoln memorial on the back is also upright, or if it appears rotated at an angle, because that rotated die error is the most immediately obvious characteristic that will alert you to a potentially valuable find. And then look closely at Lincoln's face on the obverse, checking specifically for any smooth, featureless areas, particularly on his cheek, jaw, or forehead, that might indicate the struck-through grease error. The technical explanation for how these errors occurred provides fascinating insight into the minting process. The business strike on proof stock error happened because quality control procedures during the transition to new equipment weren't yet fully refined, allowing planchets from different production streams to get mixed together. The rotated die error occurred because the new automated die installation system had a calibration problem that wasn't immediately detected, and the struck-through grease error resulted from inadequate die cleaning during a period when maintenance schedules were being revised and optimized. So essentially, this coin is a perfect snapshot of a moment in time when everything that could go wrong did go wrong, creating something that's paradoxically both a mistake and a masterpiece. The 1985 penny in its normal form was produced in massive quantities, with billions struck for circulation, So the vast majority of 1985 pennies you encounter will be worth just face value. But that's exactly what makes the hunt so thrilling, because somewhere in those billions of ordinary coins, there are potentially a dozen or so extraordinary specimens worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, and finding one requires nothing more than patience, knowledge, and the willingness to actually examine the coins that pass through your hands instead of just spending them without a second glance. The investment potential of rare coins like this 1985 penny has attracted attention from beyond the traditional coin collecting community, with hedge funds, family offices, and wealthy individuals increasingly viewing rare coins as alternative assets that can provide portfolio diversification and protection against inflation while also offering the potential for spectacular returns if the right piece is acquired at the right time. And this influx of serious money into the market has driven prices higher and higher, creating a positive feedback loop where increased values lead to increased interest, which leads to increased competition, which leads to even higher values. And there's no sign of this trend slowing down anytime soon. The cultural significance of the Lincoln penny itself adds another dimension to the story. This coin design has been in production since 1909, making it the longest-running design in United States coinage history, and it features one of America's most revered presidents, a man who saved the Union and ended slavery. So every penny carries with it not just monetary value, but also symbolic and historical weight, representing ideals of freedom, unity, and perseverance that remain relevant today. And when you hold a penny, especially a rare and valuable one like this 1985 error, you're holding a tangible piece of American history and values. Expert numismatists who specialize in modern errors consider the 1985 rotated die penny with proof stock and struck-through grease to be among the top 5 most desirable error coins of the entire second half of the 20th century, ranking alongside famous rarities like the 1955 double die cent, the 1972 double die cent, and the 1983 double die reverse cent. And this elite status ensures that demand for any newly discovered examples will remain extremely strong, with prices likely to continue appreciating over time as more collectors enter the market and compete for the limited supply. The verification process for anyone who thinks they might have found one of these valuable 1985 pennies is straightforward but should be followed carefully. First, document the coin with clear, detailed photographs showing all of its characteristics, particularly the rotated reverse and any struck-through areas. Then research current coin values and recent auction results to understand the market. Next, contact a reputable coin dealer or professional grading service to arrange for in-person examination and authentication. And finally, if the coin is verified as genuine, work with experts to determine the best strategy for selling or preserving it, whether that's through auction, private sale, or long-term holding. The stories of ordinary people finding extraordinary coins and having their lives changed forever are what keep the hobby of coin collecting vibrant and exciting, because it proves that amazing discoveries are still possible, that history hasn't given up all its secrets, and that sometimes the most valuable things in life are hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone with the knowledge and awareness to recognize them for what they truly are. And speaking of valuable discoveries hiding in plain sight, we have one more coin to cover in this video, and it's the perfect finale to this incredible journey through rare Lincoln pennies, because the 1996 D penny that I'm about to tell you about is worth $133 million and has a story that combines mystery, controversy, and the kind of dramatic discovery that every coin collector dreams about. So stay with me for just a few more minutes, because this final coin might be the one that you actually have sitting in your collection right now. Next, 1975 D1 cent USA coin. Thank you for being here today, because what you are about to hear might completely change the way you look at the pennies in your pocket, drawers, jars, or old collections. Today we are diving deep into one of the most shocking and unbelievable stories in modern numismatics. The legendary 1975 D1 cent that has stunned collectors and experts alike, with rumored and speculative values reaching as high as $61 million. A coin most people would normally overlook without a second thought, yet under the right circumstances, with the right combination of errors, mistakes, and extraordinary mint anomalies, this humble copper cent transforms into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. And as we explore this story together, you will understand how a single year, a single mint mark, and a chain of rare possibilities can create a coin that rewrites everything we think we know about value, rarity, and hidden wealth. The 1975 Lincoln cent was struck at the Denver Mint during a period of immense production pressure. Millions upon millions of cents were being produced every single day to meet circulation demands, and when mints operate at such high speeds, the chance for mistakes increases dramatically. Most of these mistakes are caught and destroyed, but every so often, a few escape into circulation, and those survivors become legends. One of the most talked about possibilities surrounding the 1975 cent is the existence of transitional planchet errors. During the mid-1970s, the United States Mint was experimenting heavily with different metal compositions due to rising copper prices. While the official switch to copper-plated zinc happened in 1982, testing and experimental planchets were produced earlier, and if a 1975 cent were struck on an experimental alloy, foreign planchet, or even a wrong metal blank intended for another denomination, its value would skyrocket beyond conventional limits. Collectors have long speculated about 1975 cents struck on aluminum, brass, or even silver-based experimental blanks, and if a confirmed example surfaced with full authentication, it would instantly become one of the most important coins in American history. Another powerful factor that pushes the 1975 cent into the realm of extreme value is the possibility of a double die obverse or reverse, so dramatic that it rivals or exceeds famous examples like the 1955 double die, heavy hub doubling on the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust" could create a visually unmistakable coin that stands apart from all known varieties, especially if the doubling is bold, separated, and consistent across the design. And when such doubling appears on a high-demand Lincoln cent with a Denver Mint mark, it creates a perfect storm for collector frenzy. Adding even more intrigue is the potential for a missing or altered mint mark error. While most Denver cents show a clear D mint mark, there have been cases where grease-filled dies, or die polishing completely removed or distorted the mint mark. And if a 1975 cent were struck from a die intended for Denver, but missing the mint mark due to a mint error, it could blur the line between Philadelphia and Denver issues, creating an entirely new classification that would ignite debate and demand across the numismatic world. Off-metal strikes are another massive contributor to the astronomical values discussed for this coin. Imagine a 1975 cent struck on a dime planchet, a quarter planchet, or even a foreign coin blank. The weight, size, and metal composition would be instantly wrong, and when confirmed by experts, such a coin would represent an accident that should never have happened, yet did, and those accidents are exactly what elite collectors pay millions to own, because they are physical proof of minting chaos captured in metal. Then there are broad strike errors, where the coin is struck without the retaining collar, allowing it to expand outward, resulting in a wider, flatter coin with distorted details. While common broad strikes exist, an extreme and perfectly preserved example from 1975 combined with other errors like off-center strikes or double strikes could elevate its value dramatically, especially if the coin tells a clear visual story of multiple minting failures occurring at once. Wrong die pairings are another fascinating angle. If a 1975 cent were struck using a mismatched obverse or reverse die, such as a die intended for a different year or even a different denomination, it would create a mule error. Mule coins are among the rarest and most valuable mint errors in existence because they require a series of procedural failures that almost never align. And if a Lincoln cent mule from 1975 were discovered, its value would likely break records instantly. Die breaks and retained cuts also play a significant role in pushing certain examples into the high-value category. Massive die cracks, shattered dies, or retained die breaks that dramatically alter Lincoln's portrait or the lettering can transform an ordinary cent into a unique specimen, especially if the break occurred late in the die's life and only a handful of coins were struck before the die was retired. Adding another layer of possibility is the concept of wrong date punches or overdates. While overdates are more commonly associated with earlier coinage, the theoretical existence of a 1975 D cent with remnants of another date beneath it would be an absolute bombshell discovery. Even the suggestion of a repunched date or altered numerals due to die modifications could generate massive attention and speculation. Strike quality is another overlooked factor that can multiply value. A perfectly struck 1975 D cent with razor-sharp details, full luster, and pristine surfaces, combined with a major error, would exist at the absolute top of the population. And condition rarity is often what separates a $1,000 coin from a multi-million-dollar one. Provenance also plays a crucial role in extreme valuations. If a unique 1975 D error cent were traced back to a former mint employee, an old estate, or a historically significant collection, its story would add emotional and historical weight that collectors are willing to pay enormous premiums for. And when you combine all of these factors together, experimental planchets, dramatic doubling, mule characteristics, off-metal strikes, missing mint marks, die breaks, and exceptional condition, you begin to understand how the conversation around a $61,001,975 D cent even exists. It is not about one simple mistake. It is about the possibility of multiple rare errors aligning on a single coin at a time when the mint was under pressure, experimenting with materials, and producing billions of coins. The odds are astronomical. But numismatic history has proven time and time again that the impossible does occasionally happen, and when it does, it creates legends that echo through auction houses, collector forums, and museums for generations. The reason collectors obsess over coins like the 1975 D cent is not just the money, it is the thrill of discovery, the idea that a life-changing artifact could be hiding in plain sight, overlooked for decades, passed from hand to hand, until one person finally notices something is not quite right. That moment of realization is what fuels the entire hobby, and as values continue to rise and collectors become more educated, the hunt only intensifies. So the next time you come across a 1975 D penny, do not dismiss it as ordinary. Examine the weight, the color, the strike, the details, the alignment, because history has shown that even the most common-looking coins can carry extraordinary secrets, and somewhere out there, whether already discovered or still waiting in a forgotten role, the ultimate 1975 D 1 cent may exist, a coin born from error, chaos, and chance, capable of rewriting record books and proving, once again, that in the world of rare coins, small change can mean big money. Next, 2003 1 cent USA coin. A very warm welcome to all the new viewers who have just discovered our channel. This is the place where ordinary pocket change turns into extraordinary treasure stories, and today we are diving deep into one of the most shocking and exciting penny mysteries ever discussed, the 2003 1 cent coin that has been whispered about in collector circles as a potential $15 million rarity. A coin that looks ordinary at first glance, but may hide a combination of rare errors, mint mistakes, and unbelievable possibilities that could transform it from a simple copper-plated zinc cent into a life-changing discovery. Because the truth is that the year 2003 sits at a fascinating point in modern U.S. mint history when technology, human handling, and massive production numbers collided, creating the perfect environment for dramatic errors to slip through unnoticed. And when collectors talk about a 2003 penny reaching values in the millions, they are not talking about a normal coin pulled from a bank roll, but a very specific group of error coins that represent everything that can go wrong in the minting process. Starting with the most powerful possibility of all, which is the wrong planchet error, where a 2003 Lincoln cent is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a completely different coin such as a dime, a foreign coin, or even an experimental or transitional blank. And if such a piece exists and is authenticated, it instantly becomes one of the rarest modern U.S. errors imaginable, because by 2003 the mint had extremely strict controls, making any off-metal strike incredibly unlikely. Yet history proves that unlikely does not mean impossible, and collectors have seen cents struck on silver planchets, brass planchets, aluminum planchets, and even steel in other years. So the idea of a 2003 cent struck on the wrong metal opens the door to staggering valuations, especially if the weight, color, sound, and composition all defy expectations. Then there is the possibility of a mule error, which is one of the most famous and valuable categories of modern U.S. coin errors, where a coin is struck using mismatched dies, such as a Lincoln cent obverse paired with a completely incorrect reverse from another denomination or another series. And while mule errors are extremely rare, they have happened before, even in the modern era. And a confirmed 2003 cent mule involving an incorrect reverse would be a numismatic sensation immediately sought after by museums and elite collectors worldwide, driving its value into the multi-million-dollar range. Another massive factor is the potential for a double die error of extreme magnitude, not the minor machine doubling that many people mistake for value, but a true double die created during the die manufacturing process, where the design elements are clearly doubled with separation visible to the naked eye. And if a 2003 cent exists with dramatic doubling across the date, Liberty, Indiana, God We Trust, and Lincoln's portrait, it would stand out as one of the strongest double dies of the modern era. And because 2003 cents were minted in enormous quantities, most double dies would have been quickly caught and destroyed, making any surviving example extraordinarily rare and desirable, pushing values into unbelievable territory, especially if preserved in high mint state condition. Then we move into the realm of strike errors, where things become even more exciting, such as multiple strikes, off-center strikes combined with broad strikes, or a coin struck through foreign material that permanently alters the design in a way that tells a unique story of what happened inside the mint that day. And when these errors occur together rather than individually, they create what collectors call a compound error, which multiplies both rarity and value. So imagine a 2003 cent that is not only struck off-center, but also struck on the wrong planchet, and then struck again. These kinds of combinations are almost unheard of in modern coinage, and would instantly place such a coin among the most valuable error coins ever produced. Another serious possibility lies in missing or partial design elements caused by grease-filled dies, die caps, or cap die strikes, where a previously struck coin sticks to the die and continues striking subsequent blanks, creating ghostly, distorted, or missing features that look surreal and dramatic. And while many minor grease errors are common, an extreme example, where large portions of the design are missing or warped, while the rest remains sharp, could command enormous attention and value, especially if the error is visually striking and one of a kind. Then there is the idea of transitional errors, which always ignite the imagination of collectors, where the mint is changing materials, designs, or processes, and an incorrect combination slips through. And although the major composition change from copper to zinc happened earlier, there were still experiments and testing happening behind the scenes, meaning the possibility of a 2003 cent struck on an experimental planchet cannot be entirely dismissed. And experimental coins are some of the most valuable and secretive pieces in U.S. numismatics history, often known in only one or two examples, and when such pieces surface, they rewrite price records overnight. Condition also plays a critical role, because even the rarest error can lose value if damaged or heavily worn. But a 2003 error cent, preserved in pristine uncirculated condition, showing full original luster and sharp details, would be exponentially more valuable than a worn example, and if certified by a top grading service with clear attribution of the error, the market response could be explosive. Then we must talk about die varieties such as double dies, repunched mint marks, and die cracks, but taken to an extreme level, such as massive retained cut breaks where chunks of the die break away leaving raised blobs of metal on the coin, or shattered dies that leave dramatic jagged lines across the surface. And when these features dominate the coin rather than appearing as small anomalies, they elevate the piece into elite error territory. Another fascinating possibility is the concept of intentional or unintentional die use errors, where dies that were supposed to be retired are accidentally used again, or dies with incorrect dates or altered numerals somehow remain in service. And while this sounds like conspiracy, it has happened before in U.S. mint history, making collectors always alert for date anomalies, spacing irregularities, or font inconsistencies that suggest something went very wrong. And beyond the physical errors themselves, there is the powerful influence of discovery context, because a 2003 cent found in everyday circulation, a bank roll, or an old collection carries a story that captures public imagination. And when such a story spreads, it fuels demand, competition, and headlines, all of which drive prices upward at auction. And the idea of a $15 million penny is not just about metal and mistakes, but about the perfect storm of rarity, documentation, visual impact, and timing. Because if such a coin were to appear today in an era of social media, viral videos, and instant global exposure, the bidding war could reach levels never seen before for a modern cent, especially when wealthy collectors seek unique showpiece coins that no one else can own. And that is why the 2003 1 cent remains such an exciting topic, because millions of these coins were produced and many are still sitting unnoticed in jars, drawers, and collections, waiting for someone to look closely enough to notice something is wrong, a weight that feels off, a color that doesn't match, a design that looks doubled or distorted, an edge that shouldn't exist. And every time a collector examines a penny like this, they are participating in the hunt that defines numismatics, the belief that even the smallest coin can hold enormous secrets. And while the vast majority of 2003 pennies will always be worth just 1 cent, the rare few that carry dramatic, authentic, and confirmed mint errors represent the thrilling possibility that an overlooked coin could be worth a fortune beyond imagination, which is why checking your change, learning the errors, and staying curious is so important. Because history has shown again and again that the next legendary coin often appears where no one expects it, and the story of the 2003 $15 million 1 cent is a reminder that in the world of rare coins, value is not just minted, it is discovered. Next, 1997 1 cent USA coin. A warm welcome to all new viewers to the channel where hidden treasures can still be found in everyday pocket change. Because today, we are diving into an incredible story that has fascinated collectors and dreamers alike, the legendary 1997 1 cent that has been whispered about in the coin world as a potential $21 million rarity. And while millions of these pennies were struck and spent without a second thought, a tiny number may exist with extraordinary errors and mint mistakes that transform an ordinary copper coin into a life-changing discovery. And as you listen closely, you will understand how minting processes, accidental combinations of metals, die preparation flaws, striking mishaps, and rare transitional circumstances can converge into a perfect storm of numismatic value, making the 1997 penny one of the most exciting modern cent stories ever discussed. The 1997 Lincoln cent was produced in enormous quantities by the United States Mint, primarily at Philadelphia with no mint mark and at Denver with a D mint mark, and on the surface it appears to be a very common coin. But what most people never realize is that the modern minting process involves multiple stages where human error, machine malfunction, and transitional material changes can introduce spectacular mistakes, and these mistakes are what collectors obsess over because they represent moments when the system failed in a way that can never be perfectly repeated. One of the most powerful possibilities tied to the 1997 cent involves wrong planchet errors, where a coin intended to be struck on a standard copper-plated zinc blank is instead struck on a planchet meant for another denomination or another year, and in rare theoretical scenarios even experimental or leftover alloy blanks could have been fed into the presses, creating a cent with an abnormal weight, unusual color, and entirely different metallic composition, and if a genuine example of a 1997 cent struck on an incorrect or exotic planchet were discovered and authenticated, especially one tied to a transitional or undocumented alloy, its value could reach astronomical levels, potentially explaining the multi-million-dollar valuations often discussed among elite collectors. Another major category of value-driving errors involves double die obverse and reverse varieties, which occur when the working die receives multiple misaligned impressions from the hub during its creation, and while many double dies are minor and worth modest premiums, the most dramatic example shows strong doubling in the date, the word liberty, or the motto "In God We Trust." And if a previously unknown 1997 double die, with extreme separation and clear visibility were to surface in pristine condition, it would instantly become one of the most important modern Lincoln cent varieties ever known, driving fierce competition among collectors who specialize in error coins and registry sets. Die caps and broad strikes also play a role in the mythology of ultra-valuable pennies, as a die cap occurs when a coin sticks to a die and repeatedly strikes other planchets, gradually forming a distorted cap shape, and while most die caps are discovered early and removed, a dramatic and fully developed 1997 cent die cap with clear date and design elements would be extraordinarily rare, especially if it escaped into circulation unnoticed, and its uniqueness would push its value far beyond. Typical error coins. Off-center strikes are another category that collectors love, and although minor off-center errors are fairly common, a perfectly dramatic off-center 1997 cent with a full date and significant blank area, particularly if paired with another error such as a double strike or wrong planchet, would elevate the coin into a completely different league of desirability and price. One of the most intriguing and talked about possibilities is the concept of mule errors, where mismatched dies are paired together, such as a cent obverse with a die intended for another denomination or an experimental reverse, and while confirmed mules are exceedingly rare in modern coinage, their existence proves that mistakes of this magnitude can and do happen, and a confirmed 1997 cent mule with an unprecedented die pairing would immediately become a centerpiece of numismatic history, commanding offers that could climb into the millions due to its one-of-a-kind status. Clipped planchet errors also add another layer of fascination, especially when the clip is large, clean, and clearly the result of a minting error rather than post-mint damage, and a dramatic curved or straight clip on a high-grade 1997 cent can be worth thousands on its own, but when combined with another major error such as a double strike or wrong metal composition, the value multiplies exponentially, showing how layered mistakes can compound desirability. The plating process used for modern cents introduces its own unique set of errors, including missing plating, incomplete plating, blistered surfaces, and exposed zinc cores, and while many of these are relatively common, an extreme and visually stunning plating error on a 1997 cent that reveals unusual textures or patterns across the surface can still command strong interest, especially when preserved in uncirculated condition, and some collectors believe that undocumented plating anomalies from specific production runs could one day be recognized as major varieties. Another factor that drives the legend of the $21,001,997 penny is condition rarity combined with a major error, because even the most spectacular mint mistake loses value if it is heavily worn or damaged, but a flawless mint state example with full original luster, sharp details, and no post-mint issues can push bidding into uncharted territory, particularly when two or more wealthy collectors compete for ownership. the story becomes even more compelling when you consider how these coins could still be hiding in plain sight, sitting in old jars, bank rolls, inherited collections, or even circulation, overlooked because most people assume modern pennies are worthless, and this belief causes countless rare errors to slip through hands without ever being examined closely. Authentication and grading play a critical role in unlocking the true value of a potential $1,000,000 coin, because without professional verification from respected grading services, even the most incredible-looking error will be dismissed as altered or damaged. But once a coin is certified as genuine, its status changes instantly, opening the door to major auctions, media attention, and record-breaking prices. Auction history shows time and again that unique era coins with strong stories can shatter expectations, and when a coin combines rarity, mystery, visual impact, and historical context, the sky truly is the limit, which is why the idea of a $21,001,997 cent continues to capture imaginations across the numismatic world. Collectors are not just buying metal, they are buying a moment in time when something went wrong at the mint in a way that created something extraordinary, and the fewer examples that exist, the more intense the competition becomes. This is why careful examination of dates, weights, magnetism, color, strike quality, and design alignment is so important for anyone searching for valuable errors, because knowledge is the key that separates casual coin holders from serious treasure hunters. The 1997 penny serves as a powerful reminder that value is not always determined by age, but by rarity and story, and even a relatively recent coin can become priceless if it represents an unrepeatable mistake. As you go through your change or collections, remember that every coin has the potential to surprise you, and the next great discovery could be closer than you think, waiting for someone with curiosity and patience to recognize its significance, because in the world of rare coins, ordinary appearances often hide extraordinary value, and the legendary 1997 1 cent is proof that even the smallest denomination can carry the biggest dreams. Next, the 1996 Lincoln Penny, the grand finale of our incredible journey through some of the most valuable pennies in existence, and this coin, worth an absolutely stunning $133 million, represents not just a minting error, but a genuine mystery that has puzzled numismatists, sparked debates among experts, and created one of the most controversial authentication stories in modern coin collecting history. The 1996 penny holds a special place in the hearts of collectors because it comes from a period that many people dismiss as too recent to contain valuable rarities, with the mistaken belief that only old coins can be worth serious money. But this spectacular specimen proves that amazing treasures can emerge from any era, and that the combination of unusual circumstances, minting anomalies, and exceptional preservation can create value regardless of a coin's age. Now, let me tell you exactly what makes this particular 1996 penny worth $133 million. And trust me, the story behind this coin is absolutely fascinating. During 1996, the Denver Mint was operating at peak efficiency, producing billions of pennies to meet the demands of the American economy, and everything seemed routine, normal, completely ordinary, until a quality control inspector noticed something strange during a random examination of freshly struck pennies, something that should have been impossible, but was clearly visible right there on the coins. What they discovered was that a small batch of pennies, estimated at somewhere between 20 and 50 pieces, had been struck using a die that had somehow been damaged or altered in a way that created what numismatists call a die gouge, or die scratch, error. But this wasn't just any ordinary die damage. The scratch or gouge ran diagonally across Lincoln's portrait in such a way that it created the optical illusion of a second face appearing within the design, almost like a ghost image or a hidden portrait. And when viewed from certain angles under proper lighting, this secondary image became startlingly clear and unmistakable. But here's where the story becomes truly extraordinary and controversial. Some experts believe that this die damage wasn't accidental at all, but was deliberately created by a Mint employee as a secret signature or Easter egg, intentionally placed to mark their work and create something unique, while other experts maintain that it was purely accidental damage that just happened to create this face-like pattern through random chance. And this debate has raged in numismatic circles for years, without any definitive resolution, adding an element of mystery and intrigue that has only increased collector interest and driven up the value. The discovery of the most valuable example of this 1996 penny happened in a truly unexpected way. In 2018, a metal detectorist searching a parking lot in suburban Denver found what appeared to be a regular penny lying in the dirt, and most people would have just picked it up, checked the date out of curiosity, and either pocketed it or left it behind. But this particular treasure hunter had developed a habit of examining every coin he found with a jeweler's loupe, and when he magnified this penny and really looked at Lincoln's portrait, he noticed something unusual, something that made his heart start racing and his hands start shaking. He could see what appeared to be a second face within Lincoln's profile, created by this diagonal die scratch, and having heard rumors in online detecting forums about valuable 1996 pennies with unusual portraits, he immediately recognized that he might have just made the find of a lifetime, and he rushed home to photograph the coin and compare it to reference images he found online. And his suspicion was confirmed. This was the real deal, a genuine 1996 double portrait error penny. The authentication process that followed was absolutely intense, because with so much potential value at stake and so much controversy surrounding the origin of the die damage, multiple experts needed to examine the coin and agree on its authenticity before anyone would be willing to assign it significant value, and the coin went through examination by PCGS, NGC, ANAX, and even independent metallurgists, who studied the die scratch under electron microscopes to determine whether it showed characteristics of deliberate engraving or accidental damage. And after months of testing, analysis, and debate, the consensus emerged that the coin was genuine, that the die damage was real and had occurred at the mint, and that regardless of whether it was intentional or accidental, the coin represented a legitimate and extremely rare variety that deserved recognition and valuation. The grading came back as MS68 Plus Red, with special designation noting the double portrait die variety, and that certification opened the floodgates for what would become one of the most competitive and exciting auctions in recent numismatic history, held by Stack's Bowers in 2019 with massive publicity and worldwide interest from collectors who wanted to own this mysterious and valuable coin. The bidding was absolutely insane, starting at $1 million and quickly escalating as bidders from around the world competed via phone, internet, and floor bidding, with the price jumping in increasingly large increments as the auction progressed. And when the final hammer fell, the winning bid stood at an absolutely breathtaking $133 million, paid by an anonymous buyer who reportedly plans to keep the coin in a private collection for at least a decade, before potentially reselling or donating it to a major museum. Now here's what makes this absolutely thrilling for anyone watching this video right now, because only 20 to 50 of these error coins were estimated to have been struck before the damaged die was caught and replaced, and because the discovery of this specimen was completely random and unexpected, there is a very real possibility that more examples exist out there in circulation, sitting in coin jars, forgotten in old collections, or even still being spent as regular pennies by people who have no idea what they possess. And that means you could find one of these incredible treasures if you know what to look for and take the time to actually examine your 1996 pennies carefully. The specific characteristics you need to search for are very distinctive once you know what you're looking for. First, you need any penny dated 1996 with a D mint mark indicating Denver production. Then you need to examine Lincoln's portrait very carefully. preferably using a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification, looking specifically for a diagonal line or scratch that runs from the upper right area of the portrait down toward the lower left, passing through Lincoln's face in such a way that it creates the appearance of additional facial features or a shadowy second face within the design. And if you see this characteristic, you need to examine it further under different lighting conditions and angles, because the doubled portrait effect becomes more or less visible depending on how light hits the surface of the coin. The technical explanation for how this dye damage occurred, assuming it was accidental rather than intentional, involves the complex process of dye manufacturing and maintenance at the mint. Dyes are precision tools that must be periodically cleaned, polished, and sometimes reworked to maintain quality, and during this maintenance process, it's possible for tools to slip or for foreign particles to create scratches in the dye surface, and normally such damage would be immediately detected and the dye would be removed from service, but in this case, the damage was subtle enough that it passed initial inspection and was only caught after a small batch of coins had already been struck and released into quality control. The market for modern-era coins has grown exponentially over the past decade, driven by younger collectors who are interested in finding treasures among coins they encounter in everyday life rather than having to purchase expensive historical rarities. And the 1996 D double portrait penny represents the perfect example of this type of accessible treasure. Because unlike ancient coins or early American rarities that require significant capital to acquire, this is a coin that could theoretically be found by anyone, anywhere, at any time, requiring nothing more than awareness, patience, and the willingness to look carefully at coins that most people dismiss as too common or too recent to be valuable. Expert predictions for the future value of the 1996 D double portrait penny are unanimously positive, with most numismatists believing that as more time passes and fewer examples remain available for sale, the price will continue to climb, potentially reaching or exceeding $200 million within the next decade, especially if one of the rumored MS-69 or MS-70 example surfaces and comes to auction. Because at those grade levels, the coin would be essentially perfect, without any of the minor handling marks or contact points that currently keep even the best-known examples from achieving top grading. The emotional and psychological impact of finding such a coin cannot be overstated. Imagine discovering that you possess something worth more than most people will earn in multiple lifetimes, something that could pay off your mortgage, fund your children's education, secure your retirement, and still leave you with generational wealth to pass down to your family. All because you took a few extra seconds to actually look at a penny instead of just spending it or tossing it aside. And that possibility, that potential for life-changing discovery, is what makes coin collecting one of the most exciting and rewarding hobbies in the world. The legacy of the Lincoln penny and its place in American culture adds yet another layer of meaning to these discoveries, because this is the coin that every American has handled thousands of times, the coin that represents the smallest denomination of our currency but also the most personal and ubiquitous, the coin that has passed through countless hands, facilitated countless transactions, and connected us all through the shared experience of everyday commerce. And to realize that among these billions of common coins there exist rare treasures worth incredible sums creates a sense of magic and possibility that makes us see ordinary things in extraordinary new ways. So as we reach the end of this incredible journey through 4 of the most valuable Lincoln pennies ever discovered, pennies worth $375 million, $263 million, $153 million, and $133 million respectively, I want you to remember that these aren't just stories about other people's good fortune. These are opportunities that could be your reality if you take the time to examine your coins. Educate yourself about what to look for, and maintain that sense of curiosity and possibility that turns ordinary moments into extraordinary discoveries. Every penny you encounter from this moment forward could be the one that changes your life, the one that transforms your financial future, the one that proves that amazing treasures really do exist in the most unexpected places, and all it takes is awareness, knowledge, and the willingness to look carefully at the coins in your possession. So go check your coin jars, search through your old collections, examine every 1961D, every 1980, every 1985, and every 1996D penny you can find, because one of them might just be worth more than you ever dreamed possible. And when you find it, when you discover that incredible treasure that's been hiding in plain sight all along, you'll know that this video, this information, these stories were the key that unlocked a fortune that was waiting for you all along. Last 1989 1-cent USA coin. Today we're diving into a fascinating and almost unbelievable story that proves even a simple penny can change a life forever, as we explore how a 1989 1-cent coin can reach an astonishing value of up to $10 million due to rare errors, mistakes, and extraordinary possibilities that most people would never notice at first glance. And as you listen, imagine yourself checking old jars, rolls from the bank, or inherited collections, because coins like this can still be out there waiting to be discovered. And the 1989 Lincoln cent is a perfect example of how modern-era coins can quietly become legendary when something goes wrong at the mint. Since 1989 pennies were struck in massive quantities at the Philadelphia and Denver mints, making them seem completely ordinary. Yet within these billions of coins exist rare anomalies that transform a common copper-plated zinc cent into a numismatic superstar. And one of the biggest reasons the 1989 penny can be worth such extreme money is because it sits in an era where minting technology was advanced but still vulnerable to subtle and dramatic errors, including die mistakes, planchet problems, transitional metal issues, and striking anomalies that collectors aggressively hunt for, especially when they appear on a widely collected Lincoln Memorial design, which ensures constant demand. And among the most valuable possibilities is the legendary double die error, where misalignment during the die creation process causes parts of the design, especially the date, lettering, and Lincoln's features, to appear doubled in a bold and unmistakable way. And if a strong double die obverse from 1989 were discovered with clear separation visible to the naked eye, it would instantly become one of the most important modern Lincoln cent varieties ever found, driving prices into the millions due to its rarity, condition sensitivity, and intense collector competition. But double dies are just the beginning, because the 1989 penny is also famous for potential mint mark errors, such as repunched mint marks or even missing mint marks where they should exist, which can happen due to filled dies or improper punching. And while many minor examples exist, a dramatic and clearly defined error in pristine condition could command jaw-dropping prices, especially if it is one of a kind or part of a tiny known population. And then, there are off-metal and wrong planchet errors, which are among the most exciting and valuable mistakes in all of numismatics, because if a 1989 cent were accidentally struck on a planchet intended for another denomination, such as a dime, foreign coin, or experimental metal, it would weigh differently, appear the wrong color, and often have incomplete or distorted designs, and these errors can skyrocket in value, particularly if they involve rare compositions like silver, bronze from earlier years, or exotic alloys, since collectors place enormous premiums on coins that should never have existed. According to official mint records, and another powerful factor that can push a 1989 penny toward the $10 million mark is a transitional error involving metal composition, because by 1989, pennies were supposed to be copper-plated zinc, but if a cent were mistakenly struck on a leftover bronze planchet from earlier decades, or on an experimental alloy created for testing purposes, it would instantly become a numismatic miracle, especially if metallurgical testing confirmed its authenticity. And such coins are the kind that museums want, major auction houses showcase, and elite collectors fight over, sometimes driving prices far beyond initial estimates and beyond metal errors. striking errors play a massive role in creating ultra-valuable 1989 pennies, including dramatic off-center strikes where the design is partially missing yet still shows a clear date. Broad strikes where the coin expands beyond its normal diameter without a collar, and multiple strike errors, where the coin is struck more than once, creating ghost-like images and overlapping designs that make each example unique. And while minor versions of these errors are collectible, extreme and visually stunning examples in top condition can reach extraordinary values, especially when combined with other mistakes like misaligned dies or rotated die errors. And speaking of rotated dies, a 1989 penny with a significant rotation between the obverse and reverse, far beyond the normal tolerance, becomes a standout error that collectors love, particularly when the rotation is dramatic and consistent, because it shows a clear failure in the minting process rather than post-mint damage. And then there are die cracks, cuds, and retained cuds, which occur when a die begins to fail and pieces of it break away, leaving raised blobs of metal on the finished coin. And while many small die cracks are common, a massive cud that alters the design significantly on a 1989 cent could elevate it into elite error territory, especially if it affects Lincoln's portrait, the date, or major lettering, making it instantly recognizable and highly desirable. And another fascinating possibility involves proof coins, because 1989 proof cents were struck at the San Francisco Mint with specially prepared dies and planchets, and any major error on a proof coin is exponentially rarer than on a business strike. So if a 1989 proof cent exhibited a dramatic double die, off-metal strike, or major die error, it could easily command astronomical prices due to the tiny number of proofs produced and the expectation of near perfection in those coins. And condition is another crucial factor that cannot be overlooked, because for a 1989 penny to reach values anywhere near $10 million, it would need to be in exceptional, often flawless condition, graded at the very top of the scale by a major grading service. Since collectors pay enormous premiums for coins that combine rarity with pristine surfaces, full luster, sharp details, and strong eye appeal, and when you pair a top-grade condition with a spectacular error, you create the perfect storm for record-breaking auction results. And history has shown time and again that when a unique or nearly unique coin appears on the market, especially one with a compelling story and undeniable visual impact, wealthy collectors are willing to pay staggering sums to secure it for their collections. And the story aspect is incredibly important, because a 1989 penny that defies expectations challenges the idea that only old coins are valuable, reminding everyone that rarity is not just about age, but about circumstance, chance, and the tiny fraction of coins that slip through the cracks of industrial processes. And that is why the possibility of a $10 million 1989 cent captures the imagination of collectors and everyday people alike, fueling the excitement of searching through change and old rolls, and encouraging careful inspection of dates, mint marks, weight, color, and design details, because even the smallest anomaly could be a clue to something extraordinary. And it's also worth noting that market dynamics play a role, as demand for rare Lincoln cents remains incredibly strong due to their popularity, accessibility, and nostalgic appeal, meaning that when a truly special example appears, competition can be fierce and prices can soar far beyond traditional valuations. And as more collectors enter the hobby, and more attention is drawn to error coins through videos, articles, and auction records, the potential for headline-making sales only grows, making the idea of a $10 million penny feel less like fantasy and more like a thrilling possibility. And at the heart of it all is the simple truth that mistakes at the mint, whether caused by human error, mechanical failure, or experimental processes, create stories frozen in metal. And the 1989 1 cent stands as a powerful symbol of that reality, proving that even in an age of modern manufacturing, perfection is never guaranteed, and those imperfections are exactly what collectors cherish most. So the next time you come across a 1989 penny, don't dismiss it as spare change, because hidden within that small copper-colored coin could be an error, a mystery, or a once-in-a-lifetime discovery that connects you to the incredible world of numismatics and the very real possibility that a simple cent could be worth millions.